Hi, this is Dennis, Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to work on what's become a reel in a bag project. I had purchased this reel. It's an Olympic reel. It's a big saltwater reel, and it's the Olympic 600 VO or LG VO. I'm not quite sure how they've done it. And I took the reel apart, and I had a problem here with the bearing. And I decided I was going to go ahead and make the purchase of a new bearing and try to put this one back together again, and that's going to be the topic of this video. So there's a couple of things going on. The first thing going on is that the bearing is a very big bearing, and it's not generally available. So what I did was I took the measurements of this bearing, and we were able to get it so that it's a new replacement bearing for the reel. So how do you do that? Well, I showed that on another episode, but it doesn't hurt to recap. You take a caliper. In my case, I have a digital caliper. Manual ones will work fine. And set it to millimeters. Measure the outside of the diameter. That would be this one. It's 19.97, so it's 20 millimeters outside, OD. You measure the inside. In this case it's 9.98 or 10, and then you measure the width. In this case it's 4.97 or 5, so it's 20, 10, 5 for the height. And then you go about trying to find a source for the bearing. Now generally I will use Boca bearing and smooth drag. They both sell a lot of common bearings for most of the fishing reels. However, this one's somewhat unique, and I found a great supplier on eBay. It's called HPR Bearings. They're down in Florida, and they may not have it listed as an eBay item, but if you contact them, contact seller, and you say, I have a bearing that's 20 by 10 by 5, can you help me? Well, they sure as heck did, and I was able to get the replacement bearing. So today I'm going to take you through how to rebuild the Olympic reel. It's got a Halcyon gear in it. It's got just the one bearing. It's got a case bushing on the one side and a plastic bushing on the other. And I think that this one's going to turn out nicely. So I didn't do much to it other than take it apart to find out where the bearing was. I'm going to start by cleaning the pieces here. And as I clean the pieces, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel, everybody involved in keeping us safe during this pandemic. You know, it just seems like we can't get away from it. Just when we thought it was over, well, here it is back again, and the fall is coming up, and I understand that that's when this virus thrives. So please stay safe and stay well, and thank a first responder or our local hometown heroes that are in the police, fire, rescue, anybody in the medical fields that's dealing with this in long-term care facilities or in the ERs or hospitals or acute care and so on. Just thank them for it. They're doing a great job. Burnout is tremendous. I don't know how they do this every day, and I thank them for that. Well, we're just kind of cleaning up some of the dirt. This has been a very dirty reel, and I want to pay particular attention to where that bearing is going to go, because that bearing became rusted and was a poor performer. So make sure that you clean that up. I use a series of, just generally speaking, I use the penetrating oil to loosen the greases, and I use a paper towel, a cotton swab, and some other things to clean all that up. That's our case. I'll use some rod and reel cleaner on it. The paint's not real good. I didn't buy it to sit on a shelf. I bought it to see if I couldn't give it a second chance. The price wasn't very high because of the bad bearing, and I thought it would make for an interesting video as well. So sometimes I just make those investments for the sake of making a video. All right, we've got some tarnish and worn pieces on this crosswind gear or oscillation gear, so I'm going to take that off. If I can, I always like to start with a non-abrasive cloth, either microfiber or paper towel. Generally when I'm cleaning, I like the paper towels as opposed to the microfibers because you just throw them out as soon as you've cleaned a piece or a part, and you make sure that you don't carry that stuff over to the next project. So that's what I'm using here. This is a big oscillation gear. One of the things that's interesting about this reel is that it's not a direct connect to the main gear. The main gear is going to drive a secondary gear, and that secondary gear is going to provide the movement on the oscillation gear. Let me put a little grease on the back of this and I'll show you. So if you like these kinds of videos, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. If you do subscribe, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see all of the projects that I work on. You'll be able to decide which ones you want to spend some time viewing. I do work on an awful lot of reels. Whatever comes in my shop, for the most part, gets an opportunity to be a YouTube star. And if you want to see all types of fishing reels be repaired and learn a little bit about fishing reel history and the like, well, this is a good channel to do that, and I would ask you again, please subscribe. Okay, so we have that secondary gear here, the oscillation gear, and you'll see that both are turning when I do that. When I load an oscillation gear, I like to load with the stud on the bottom. That's going to accept the crossway block. On the back side of this case molds in a bearing or a bushing. There is no separate bushing to this. If this becomes elongated, well, you're basically out of luck. Same thing on the other side. I believe the other side may be plastic. We'll check it in a moment, but in either case, they're not replaceable. So just if you have that wobble in your main gear, you're probably either going to have to live with it or just forego fishing with that reel. It'll be the end of the line. You won't be able to find it. The other side looks to be the same. It's kind of hard to tell. It's metal. It's metal, but it's a metal insert there as opposed to the one that's molded in on this side. You could possibly, and I'm not going to say for certain because I don't know, it looks like it's pressed into the case, possibly exchange that for a bearing. It'd probably be very expensive versus the value of this reel, so probably wouldn't suggest going ahead with it. This is a beautiful gear, and it says Halcyon, and I'm going to assume Halcyon is a metal. It does say Olympic on the gear as well. This one I did clean earlier when I took it off the reel. You'll see the secondary gear here is going to drive the one off to the side. It's not going to drive the crosswind gear that I'm aware of. It may. No, it's not. I was wondering if it might be able. Some of these you can get the secondary gear and this one. In this case, that doesn't have the reach. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just kind of lube up the teeth. Make sure when you're doing these kinds of services that you check all the pieces and parts. You want to make sure that there's no broken teeth or bent teeth. Probably would have found that out in the pre-service testing. Of course, this one had such a loud, noisy main bearing. It was kind of hard to get away from that. But it's the more you can test, the better off you're going to be. All right. You saw me put the new bearing on. Boy, is that a smooth operator. You might be able to hear this one. You can imagine spinning that. That's the old one. You can imagine spinning it. This one's just butter smooth. I've cleaned out all of the grooves in this pinion gear, so now we're going to go back and put the appropriate greases onto this. This is a nice reel. So this is an Olympic reel. There was a whole group of Silver Series reels that came out in the 70s and the 80s. There was several manufacturers that made them. A lot of manufacturers carried them. Some of them didn't do it themselves. For example, you had the Penn Silver Series. It was made in Japan. And you had the Daiwa and the Ryobis and others. And they were essentially all very competitive. Most of them were single ball bearings. The Daiwa Silver Series was a little bit more. I think it had the 2, possibly the 3. All right, so we just put that in. There should be a corresponding set of screws here that will go in there. Just searching them out at the moment. I use I use a parts tray for all of the pieces and parts. That way I know where they're going. And I'm just trying to find the 3 that are the same set of screws. I believe that these are those. I will go back and look at my pictures if it becomes a problem, because I did take pictures along the way, knowing that it was going to take me a little while to get the bearing. And HPR, quite honestly, I contacted them on eBay. They shipped it the next day, and it arrived here a few days later. There is a little collar that goes on here, so let's grab that collar, and we'll just test the one screw, and then we'll make sure that we can put the other ones in. So as I mentioned, I work on all kinds of reels. If you're working on a reel and maybe you're stuck or you have a question about the reel, if you want to leave that question in the comment section, I will try to get you an answer. Sometimes it's a simple one, sometimes it's a little bit more complex. Those of you that watch the channel know from time to time I'll actually do a video in answer to a question. Sometimes it's something like, how do I set the bail spring on a particular reel? If I happen to have that reel in my shop, I'll go ahead and do a video, because it's probably easier to answer in show and tell mode. But a lot of the questions are, where can I get a piece or a part, or my reel is not operating smoothly, how can I help improve the performance, those kinds of things. And sometimes I'm even able to help you troubleshoot what the issue is in a reel. So leave a question if you have one in that comment section. I will try my best to get you an answer. Well, this last one is just what kind of my channel has become known as. We have a little bit of problems with these small screws, and I'm having a little bit of a problem right now, but if you just hang on a moment or go for a cup of coffee and come on back, you'll see me kind of solve how to get that last one in. It's a good point to note that if you leave a lot of tools around your bench, organized of course, that you will eventually find one that you can hook up with. So these are flat-headed screws, so you can use a flat, or you can use a Phillips head, whichever one works better for you. Whatever you do, make sure they're all tightened down. Give that a spin, and boy is that quiet. Just what I wanted it to be. Okay, next up then, we're going to grab the main gear that we just freshened up. Actually, we'll put the crosswind block in first. It'll be a little bit easier. So I did mention pictures. I did take pictures of these when I took it apart as a reference point. The other pictures that you can get, you can go out on the internet and find the schematic for the reel. That, of course, is a burst diagram of the reel. That can help you as well. So if you get stuck, just try one or two of those approaches, and you'll be better off for it. Okay, we got to come up top now. Up top we have this little platform here. It goes next. And we sit the this is going to sit on the back of the just dropped all of that out. Alright, I'm trying to find out what the orientation is on this one. It's going to orient this way for the anti-reverse dog. So that means when I transfer it over to the spool, it's going to go upside down like that. And you saw me before use a little bit of fishing reel grease kind of as a glue, and I'm going to do the same thing here after I get the sand out of this. Alright, there's no internal trip on this. This is what I call a hammer bail. It's going to come down and slam the side. There is no internal trip, so you don't have to worry terribly about that. Again, we're going to line this up so that that becomes the bottom here. And I'm just going to put enough grease on here to just kind of hold it. so that when I flip it, it's relatively stable. If I press that down, that should hold as I go to install there. All right, I think we pretty much have this now. We just dropped this out. So let's go ahead and put this back in. Don't panic, be patient, and generally when you work these things, it'll come out okay. All right, just gonna mate these up then. That's your top now. Again, a little bit more dirt up top here. So ultimately what happened here was that this reel became problematic with the loud burring noise, but it's also got a lot of dirt on it, and it has a lot of sand scattered here and there. So you want to take your time with these. You want to clean them up as best you can. You want to remove anything that's somewhat problematic here. And if you do, the reel will last for quite some time to come. Just trying to find my ratchet here. I've got a little bit of a socket there. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but we'll line that up. So finally, if you have a reel that needs to be serviced and you're not up for doing it yourself, if you send me an email on the business card that follows, I'll be happy to provide you with the repair information on how to send that reel to me. Okay, we'll just tighten that down. We're going to put a little bit of grease onto the side here. We're going to put the side plate on. Oh, we're not going to do that yet. Just as I went to put the side plate on, I realized I don't have the axle shaft in. This is just tarnished. It's not corroded or pitted in any regard. Quick little coat of grease. Light grease. Don't go crazy with this. Bring that down through the top. Made it into the bottom here. That might be a little tough to see. We'll show you in just a moment. You're going to make this into the crossline block so that the two holes match for the tie down screws. That's these two right here. I have the two small screws next. I think I actually used a micro screwdriver on this on the way out. That part I don't remember. So again, it's kind of good to have a lot of tools around. I like to keep them within each of my hands so I don't need to set down these pieces. If you do, you sometimes get stuck, either forgetting where they came from or perhaps losing track in your mind of where you've been. All right. So a lot of fans of the Japanese-made Silver Series reels out there. I kind of like the Daiwa series. There's other people that are fanatical about the Pen series. I think all of them were well made and a testament to the materials and the design of the times. And I don't honestly don't think you can go bad with any of them. But I think overall I kind of like the Daiwa. It has the extra ball bearing in it. And they just seem to go. The downside of the Daiwa is it's a very noisy reel. You can't override that anti-reverse. And it just keeps on clicking. 3 side plate screws. And we'll be back with the handle in a moment. So it's not that difficult to do this one. What is difficult is finding pieces and parts for it. So I got lucky. I found that HPR bearing, and they helped out quite a bit, so a shout out to them. But on the others, if you can't get a bearing, well, then you're in pretty tough stead. Now, this bearing was not inexpensive. I think it ran about $14. you have to start asking yourself, is the reel worth doing? And in Second Chance Tackle, generally, my take on it is, if I can get it fishing again, it's worth doing. And particularly a classic like this. I think this one's going to be a nice operational reel. It may not look pretty. Cosmetics come secondary to me. I don't go about painting reels or doing crazy things like that. What I do like to do is get them running again. All right, I like to put a drop of oil into the seams. As I mentioned, this is not a spring-fed kind of a reel. It's I call them just bang reels, but that's what's going to happen with these. This has actually got a two-step handle screw here. It's got a first one which is going to go in and set inside that gear there. That one's going to be driven in by a screwdriver. I'm not exactly sure why they do it. It works. I've seen it before, but I don't know exactly why that was done this way. So the first one comes in. That's going to set the handle. Then the second one kind of goes inside of it as a screw. So double step hold down possibly. Don't know. And then there would be a cap here. There's a thread for that, but that cap is long gone. I don't know where or what's happened with that, quite honestly. So let's turn our attention over here to the drag stack as the last part of this service. So this has a 5-sided clip. In order to service the drag stack, you want to get something small where you can work in behind the clip. In this case, I just used the micro screwdriver. It was right behind me on the bench there. This is a spring clip, so you got to be careful. You got to hold it or it's going to shoot. And you want to fish these out. There's a series of them. This is built here. There's no question. There's a lot of drag washers in here, all the way down to the end. So you want to sort out what you have. You're going to have a series of keyed washers and a series of fabric washers and a series of leather washers. And these washers are pretty brittle here. So I'm going to have to pause this video for a moment. I'm going to see if I can find something that's close. Okay, so fortunately for me, I'm a pack rat. Whenever I get a reel that's broken or spools, every now and then somebody will come up and sell me a box of spools for nothing, or a limited amount of, not nothing, but 50 cents a piece or something. I'll just take the washers and the retention rings and things like that and just put them aside if I have no use for them. And eventually I find a use for them. So in this case, we've got two washers here, a broken one and one that's oblong that need to be replaced. These are okay. They still have their flexibility. They're not breaking. They could use a little bit of oil. They're leather. And I was able to go to my little container over there. I found the hard washers and I found substitute washers that'll be close enough. I just have to figure out which ones I want to use. So we have two eared washers. We have two keyed washers. We have a little bowed one that belongs in the bottom here. And then we have the one up top, which is thicker. So we're going to have a hard washer was next in the sequence. And then we have the keyed washer, a drag washer, an eared washer, a drag washer. I think we're going backwards here. Let's do the keyed first. Wait. And then we'll give one more up top and that heavy washer. That's quite a drag stack there. Okay, so let's review. We have that little spring washer underneath that starts it. We have a hard washer. We have an eared washer, fabric washer, keyed washer, fabric washer, eared washer, hard washer, keyed washer, hard washer, finish washer. I could use the Teflons rather than the hards, but for now I'm just going to think let's go ahead and use the hard washers. This is a massive stack. I want to do two things. I want to clean up the washers here first. Use some steel wool just to get the pieces off. Most of this is tarnish, it's not dirt, but there's some parts where the old washer is on there, so I want to get that off. And the smoother you can make these, the better they're going to be. I'm using just 4/0 steel wool to kind of buff it. Cleans it right up. If you needed to put a mild abrasive in there, you could use a chrome polish. That would be helpful. I tend to use a turtle wax chrome polish. It's an automotive polish, but it tends to do well on metals. You can use any metal polish that you like. We'll just clean this one up. And we'll get this stack back together. One more here. Okay, we can go ahead and reinstall. And I'm just changing my mind. I'm allowed to do that. I'm going to put the Teflon washers, as long as they fit in the bay here. Yep, they'll fit in. I'm going to go with the Teflon washers instead. They're just a little bit more malleable than those hard washers are. Okay, the first one in was that hard washer. Then we're going to go with an eared washer. Those have points on it. They need to get into the slots in the reel. I'm going to put one of those Teflons in, and the keyed washer, that's the round one. And I've got two of these leather washers. We'll put those in the middle of the stack. I'm going to put a little bit of dry grease on it just to keep them flexed and lubricated. Put that one in. The next one up would be another keyed washer. This has got a lot of max drag in it. This is quite impressive in terms of the stack inside here. Normally you will not see a stack this big. All right, we'll put the Teflon one there. I'll go ahead and put that keyed washer in again. I'll take the fabric washer for up top. You want to alternate the keys and the eared washers. That way they will equally grip the axle shaft and grip the spool. The eared washers are the one that's holding the spool. The keyed washer is the one holding the shaft. When you press them all down together, they make a pancake that doesn't move, and so the shaft and the spool can't move, and that's how you get drag. All right, let's just go ahead and put that on. This one says oil. I don't know, but I would guess that there was probably a plug here at one point in time, maybe a rubber plug or something. That's gone as well. All right, let's go ahead and get these all set here. Put the big knob on and we'll give it a test. We'll see how we're doing. Big reel, big reel. Worthy to put some line on, see how it performs. So let's just go over what we did. Took the whole reel apart. We ordered a replacement bearing for a very noisy bearing. It came to us from HPR Bearings, a seller on eBay. We didn't see a listing for that bearing, but we just simply sent them a note. Went under contact seller. They were very responsive, got it back to us, and got us a bearing that fits. We were able to rebuild the stack. We took our opportunity to clean everything on the inside. We liked what we saw. If we didn't like something, it was related. You got molded case points here for the main gear. That means that once that thing goes, it's gone. We were able to re-lubricate everything. We came up top. We saw that there's a couple of brittle drag washers. We found out that if you happen to maintain a supply of everybody else's drag washers, that many of those are interchangeable. And we found two Teflon washers that we substituted for broken and pressed out of shape drag washers that were in that stack. We're going to just make sure that we have a tight top up here. Oh, we sure do. That's not moving at all. Let's back it off a little bit. Yep, we have play. We have what we need in the drag washers. Let's give it a turn. Well, let's take that off because you're never going to hear if the bearing is meant solid or not. So we just threw the override on that. So the good news was we heard that we have an anti-reverse because we're kind of looking at setting that ratchet up inside the spool properly. Well, there we go. Boy, is that ever the difference from what it was. Very nice, very smooth wheel. As I mentioned, this has got what I call a bang bail. It's going to come over here and smash the side of the handle. That's going to trip the bail. We'll show you how it works when you turn it. That's how that goes. And then the last thing we want to check, let's go ahead and put that noisy anti-reverse on. And that kind of lets every fisherman on the beach or on the boat know that you've got something on and you're working. So there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed that. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. If you know a first responder, please thank them. Again, please subscribe if you want to see more. In the meantime, have a great day. Please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching.